I'm John Weltman, and I am the founder and president of Surrogacy. We have been working in Sweden now, I think, for 9 years. Our oldest child is here. He's a little over 7. Peter is a parent through our program, and the 2 little girls over there are his and Jonas's. And hopefully, I don't know whether they will talk to you, but he at least will tell you a little bit about his experience and also his experience in Sweden.
I'm going to talk a little bit about my personal experience and my partners, of course, and a little bit about the relationship with both the egg donor and the carrier. And but at first, Jonas, my partner, and I discussed for quite some time to adopt a child, and found out that it was impossible for us to do this in Sweden, and we discussed to go abroad, probably South America, and adopt a child in one of the countries over there. And it's more or less to buy a kid from an agency. You pay $10,000 or something, and they will give you more or less what you want. And we didn't feel good about that. Then we met Klaus and Henrik, our good friends over here, and they told us about John and Surrogacy. So that's why we ended up with John's agency. We actually looked into a couple of other agencies in the United States. There are, at this time, I think it's 3 working with gay couples that we know about in Sweden anyway. And but John's is the one in Boston on the East Coast. It's much easier to travel to. And also the only one we had any experience through our friends from. So that's why we picked Surrogacy. And when you decide to get a child through a surrogacy in the United States or other parts of Sweden, I think what you need to know and what you need to work on, that is your frustration. Since you're going to have a lot of tensions in your relationship and a lot of frustrations about whether you're going to do it or not. There's quite a lot of money, and it's all taxed money here in Sweden. So you have to really decide, is this what I want? And it puts a burden on your relationship when you go through this process. Then once you sign the papers, the agreement with the Surrogacy, you have so much frustration that nothing happens, since you want the kid the next day. But it takes a couple of months. It takes time to find the egg donor. It takes time to find a carrier. And it takes time to do all the examinations and find out, make all the small decisions. So what you actually have to be prepared on is a lot of frustrations. And then you get pregnant with a surrogacy surrogate mother in the States, and then the second frustration takes place. 9 months is a terrible long time, I promise you. You can get through the first 3, 4, 5 months fairly good, but then you go to the 20th week ultrasound, and then it's terrible time. It's a terrible time until the birth, I promise you. So frustration is the key word right now. But on the other hand, it was fairly easy. It didn't take that long time. But we got our carrier first, a woman in New London, Connecticut. And then we had to pick an egg donor. And like John said, you can order. We went into his webpage, looked at all the women there, and started to discuss at home, what do we want for kind of woman? And John called us and said, well, pick 10 criteria that you want out of your egg donor. And we started to discuss what you want. Of course, we all wanted blonde, blue-eyed, tall ballet dancer with Olympic championships in her luggage and whatever. But in the end, we decided that what we wanted was a Scandinavian-looking woman. And that was our way to tell John that we didn't want an Afro-American and we didn't want an Asian girl. We wanted someone who could pass as a Swedish woman or Scandinavian woman. Since we wanted the kids to blend in, we didn't want them to carry both the thing that they have two dads and also look different from other kids here in Sweden. So we told him we want a Scandinavian girl, and she said, well, since we got a girl named Stacy who called us a week ago, and she's tall, she's blonde, and she has blue eyes, and she has ancestors from Sweden, so she's perfect for you. And that's how we ended up with a blonde, Swedish-looking girl. But it was pure luck, I would say. We spoke to our carrier at least once a week since we got in contact with her. And we spoke to Stacy, our egg donor, a couple of times. But then during the process at the clinic, when they retrieved the eggs and fertilized them, we got a wonderful contact with our egg donor. And we didn't hit it off that well with our carrier. So actually today we have almost no contact with the carrier, but we have a lovely contact with the egg donor. And actually Jonas...
It's different.
Yes, I know, it's quite different. Usually it's the other way around. You have a wonderful contact with your carrier and don't even meet your egg donor. But we have a wonderful contact with the egg donor, and Jonas actually visited her a couple of weeks ago, a couple of months ago. So it depends. It's all, you have to find your own relationship with the donor and with the carrier. And we got wonderful help from Vicky at the agency, how to behave, what to say at the first when we called her. She called us up and gave her tips, suggesting, coaching for how to deal with this surrogacy, or this carrier during the first phone call with her, and what to do and what to say and what not to say and what to think about. So it was fairly easy to get in contact with her. And when the kids, it says, tell something about birth experience. Well, actually, it was fairly easy. We went there for us.
Right.
But at the hospital, it was no problem. Us being a gay couple, and this was a surrogacy, was no problem. The kids stayed with her during the night, and we had them all days at the hotel, at the hospital. And after 4 days, they were released from the hospital, and we could take them back to our hotel. So it was getting out of the States and getting into Sweden was fairly complicated, but I think I decided to make it more complicated than it was needed to be. Since John found us a wonderful lawyer in Connecticut that was going to help us to get the second parent adoption and to get sole custody of the kids, and he wanted 3 weeks to be able to do this. So actually what we did, we took the carrier and the kids and went to court by ourselves. And I spoke with my broken English, looking very Swedish, and actually got them to give us sole custody in 24 hours. But that was pure luck, I think. And then we got American passports, and that was actually what you need to get into Sweden. American passports and the paper saying that you have sole custody of your kid or the kid.
You don't necessarily need an American passport, but you can get an American passport for any child born in the United States. Yes. And even if it's completely genetically Swedish, it would still be entitled to an American passport just by being born there.
So you didn't go through, you didn't try to get a Swedish passport for your term? Or?
I'm coming to that, since that's what you need to get out of the United States. And that's what you're going to need when you come to Sweden to get the kids into Sweden. But you have to do a few more steps in the States. For example, a good thing is to call, now we're going to speak Swedish, you have to call Försäkringskassan when the kids are born, and just let them know that they are Swedish kids born in the United States, and ask them to make a mark in the register that they have received a phone call about it. That makes it much easier in the contact with them when you get back to Sweden.
So you do that like the first day or whatever?
Yeah.
Why do they need that?
First day or first couple of days, you just make a phone call and tell them, I had a baby.
I mean, why does that make it easier for them?
I don't know, but it's made it so much easier for us.
I think I wanted Peter to tell the story, but there are two ways in which our couples go back to international communities. Most couples want to get back quickly simply because they don't want to spend time in a hotel, and the fastest passport you can get is a U.S. passport, which can be gotten in 24 hours. So if you've got the legal work done before the birth, you could leave a day or two after the baby is born. We tell people 2 weeks, but even that is fine for a U.S. passport, may be difficult for a Swedish passport. If a child comes to this country without a Swedish passport, it's a visitor like I am. And until you get the Swedish passport, it can't stay here. So anything you can do to smooth the way is...
Did you say can't stay here?
It can't stay here without your getting a Swedish passport for it.
You can stay for 3 months.
I can stay for 3 months.
As a
Yes.
tourist.
No, it's on a tourist
Okay.
basis.
Yeah.
But once you come back to this country, you must get the Swedish passport. That is what most people do. Some people, however, wish to get the Swedish passport in the United States. Then you must go where there is a consulate, a Swedish consulate, which is a major city. Most of our surrogates live in small towns. You have to bring the babies there and do that. It takes longer, and you'll spend longer in the United States. So that is entirely up to you, but it is certainly possible to get the Swedish passport within the time frame that they will be here as tourists.
What is longer?
But let me give you some more of the story, since I think I got to answer some of your questions. You have to the part of getting out of the States is just sole custody American passports. To get into Sweden, it's a different story. Försäkringskassan is one that you're going to call, but you have to call the Swedish embassy in the United States, or the generalkonsulatet in New York, or other parts of the States, and actually tell them that you have the Swedish child born in the United States. If you're a gay couple, you have to apply for Swedish citizenship at the embassy. If you're a Swedish mother with a adoption paper, I'm not quite sure, but they will help you to tell if you're going to fill out their forms or if it's considered as a Swedish-born child.
Would you tell them about surrogacy there?
Yes, I was outspoken to
He
all
did.
the authorities.
Most of my heterosexual couples do not.
No,
Even if it's an egg donor surrogacy, they do not.
no,
They simply act like they had a baby in the United States.
Yes.
And then there's no issue at all.
no. But I spoke to the immigration service here in Sweden, with the Försäkringskassan, with the social worker here in Stockholm, with everyone, and I told them that it was a surrogacy, and it helped quite a lot to be upfront with it being a surrogacy, since it gives them a perspective of the issue, and you don't have to lie, you don't have to trick your way out of all the questions. And it was no problems, no nonsense, whatever. But once you contacted the embassy and applied for Swedish citizenship for the kids, in my case kids, you could go back to Sweden. If you go back to Sweden without applying for Swedish citizenship in the United States, the children will be treated as refugees in Sweden, and will take a couple of months, maybe a year, before they get to Swedish citizenship. They will be put in line with all the other refugees from the rest of the world. But if you go to the embassy in the United States and apply, they have a fast track here in Sweden for them. So it takes, we applied in end of June, and they became Swedish citizens in the beginning of August.
Hasn't there been a change there though? I think I've heard somewhere that you no longer apply at the embassy, that you actually call the tax authority in Sweden?
No, that's what in Swedish is called mantalsskrivning or residency.
Mm-hmm.
Since when you get back to Sweden, you will take the kids to Skatteverket, also a Swedish name for and get them registered at your home address. And that's the second part of what actually is the first step you do when you get back to Sweden. That what you should do it the first day in Sweden.
Oh, okay, but I have contact with a woman who's just taken home a baby from abroad who's born through surrogacy. And she said that this was in December, I think,
yes,
that she came home. And she said that she thought that was the process that you've now
yes.
described. But when she called, or when she went to the embassy, they told her that the rules had changed and she needed to call the tax authority first and then get some papers or whatever from them, and then go to the embassy.
But I think that's the difference between men and women. Since if you have a man having a baby abroad,
yeah,
with an American woman,
yeah,
you have different rules when you have a baby as a Swedish woman abroad.
yeah.
If you want to know all about this, I wrote an article on the Brennpunkt in August 2006. You can look it up on the internet.
He's fighting about this right now.
And I'm fighting in this right now. Actually, I'm appealing to Supreme Court right now, Regeringsdomstolen to get. But this is the easy way, and when you get back to Sweden, you will call Stadsdelsnämnden, your social authority at your home community, and get help through them what to do with the sole custody issue in Sweden.
But
You
would
can
you
go.
need to do that as a heterosexual couple?
No, probably not.
The one difference I would say is that what we're going to do for a heterosexual couple is very different than what Peter did for himself in the United States. Even if we had done it for Peter, the concept that you would have either a man alone on a birth certificate or a man with a woman deprived of rights is very different than what happens for a heterosexual couple. They anticipate that this is your child. You have your
Yes.
names on the original birth certificate.
Yes.
There's no reason to expect otherwise.
No.
And therefore, much of the things that gay couples have to go through are much more difficult than what
Yes.
heterosexuals have to go through. So in general, we're not encouraging you to lie to anyone, but I think it's simply something they don't need to know. And especially if it's your own genetic child, then I really think it's simply a non-issue. Even if it's not, however, raising that creates this issues that arise from Peter, and I say, why do that? We've had a number of couples come through our program who are heterosexual and come back to Sweden and other countries without issue. One of our jobs, we consider it critical to put you in touch with people who have done this before. And in that case, if it's a heterosexual couple, we put in touch with some of the heterosexual couples who've been through our program before and let them walk you through what the process was for them. In addition, we can put you in touch with some of the lawyers that some of these people have dealt with who have knowledge not just about what they did 2 years ago when they brought their girls back, but what is being done today, because it does change. And so we consider that, although we're not Swedish attorneys, one of the things that is our job to do.